Hi to all. Again, a reminder for the newcomers who just went into the room. If you want to see the video from Ginger and Arvin and the list of participants, please click on the participants tab, which is on your top right. Okay, Ginger, let's wait just one more minute, too, and we'll start. Okay, Ginger?
Yep.
I guess we can start now. If someone else join us, they're welcome, of course. So, okay. Hi to all. This is all our colleagues. So, a bit an uninformal atmosphere, but not totally. Today, me and Ginger, our colleague Virginia Ginger Paque, will have a short presentation on optimal remote moderation skills. Well, why we're doing this and why is this important as a new way of moderation? Well, first of all, let's just see what's actually remote participation is and why it even started, who implemented it, and what is this process all about. Well, the remote participation concept is basically built up on three pillars, to say, or 3 points which are important. First, of course, is inclusiveness, which actually is the most important moving force of remote participation. Participation of all stakeholders at the equal footing. That's something which became a really important thing for many organizations. So today we are aware more than ever that online participation is here to stay. So indeed, the world is getting smaller, but the day is getting shorter, and the lack of time, resources, access to physical meetings is actually pushing this model of participation to the top of the list for many international organizations and other organizations, large organizations, etc. Who is using it? Some of the most prominent users in Geneva from international organizations are, of course, IGF, Internet Governance Forum, with a long history of remote participation and a long history of enhancing remote participation in a way that would be participation on an equal footing for everyone. Others are ITU, World Trade Organization, UNICEF, and others are also using this this new feature of remote participation to actually connect to all stakeholders globally. And not just that. The second, the second good part of, let's see if someone else also show up. Yes, we have Marco with us also. Hi, Marco. The second point, of course, is accessibility. Remote participation serves as a great tool for the people with disabilities to, as we said, participate on equal footing. This is also one of the postulates for many international organizations, why they are pushing remote participation agenda, and why is this top on their agenda. I mean, access for people with disabilities is really one of the most important parts of this. This group should not be marginalized and put aside in decision-making process just because they cannot participate at equal footing. We will see later how people with disabilities should be actually put in the first place when we have interventions during the remote participation. And of course, third point is self-explanatory, is the cost reductions. Many of the organizations implement this remote participation on just to kind of globally cut expenses, and those are cost reductions are big. This this actually means not sending your participants from around the world to Geneva, but actually give them a chance to participate from wherever they are. Of course, this reduces significantly the CO2 footprint and reduce the cost for large organizations to include more people into decision-making progress. Especially interesting is CO2 footprint list or database which IGF is calling. They actually calculate how much of CO2 is not spent or saved in this process of remote participation. So those three are basically main purposes for our organization. Why would they present a remote participation, which is inclusiveness, accessibility, and a cost reduction for our organization. So let's see what are the actual elements and what you guys are actually seeing once you got to your role of remote moderator for the online event. Every room or every meeting actually consists of these three basics, which is video and audio broadcast of the event, chat session, and the live transcript of the event. All of these three are really essential parts of remote participation. They can be enhanced, they can be more things put into it, but these three are the basics. So as we see from here in WebEx, you see my video, you hear my voice, and it is broadcast globally. So basically, it's the same principle as we are doing it now. Chat session, of course, is a really important part because many of the participants might, or some of the participants might not be able to actually talk, or not be able to, to put a question in a different manner. And during the meetings, attendees will actually ask questions through the chat session, through the chat box. So this will be your tool for communicating with remote participants and communicating with others who are actually participating in remote participation. And last but not least is the live transcript of the event. Almost every remote participation facilities or events have a live transcript, which is again serving as a tool for the people with disabilities to participate, and also as a verbatim transcript from the event, which can later be used as a report, etc. So those are the basic elements which every online meeting will have, or a remote participation will have. So now, it's on roles and responsibilities of you as a remote moderator. Well, what is the first prize is, oh, this is the last slide, is not the next slide, sorry. Second, here you go. Roles and responsibilities. Well, the remote moderator is actually the advocate of the remote participant. He or she helps the remote participant to actively participate during the workshops and sessions or other focus sessions. Basic knowledge of the organization and its processes is desirable for this role, but not essential. So you might must have some prior knowledge of, let's say, IGF process, but this is not a must for your role. It is desirable. The remote moderator also assists remote panelists, enable them to share their desktop and show their presentations, etc. So this role is quite demanding. And let me just repeat what I said at the beginning. The remote moderator is an actual advocate of the remote participants. So the remote moderator is the only voice, their only voice in the room, their only way of communicate and actually participate. So it is a responsible role. So during these years, we developed guidelines for roles and responsibilities, which actually show up to be the best things, the best way of how can you do the remote participation and do the remote moderation in the best way. Well, let's start from the beginning. First, when you enter the workshop room, of course you will go sit behind the PC, which are already designated to the remote moderation. So you won't be thinking about technicalities. You won't be thinking about logging in or taking your computer. Everything is already there, set up. So your job is actually to sit behind the PC, which is designated for that. RP for the session will be already set up. You will be already logged as the remote moderator. And if you face any problems, which are technical issues like you can't see the screen, there is nothing on your screen, etc., it's not on you to actually enhance that, but just to call or contact the tech team or the remote participation team. So what is the first thing you would do once you're logged into the room under the remote moderator name? Of course, first and foremost, introduce yourself. This is really important. If you're just a remote moderator without a name, it may create a bit of an uncomfortable feeling for someone to ask you something. But if you have a name and you go under Ginger or under Arvin, it gives a personal touch to this info, and of course it will help participants to directly ask you. So first and foremost, introduce yourself. As you see in this slide, you can introduce yourself by saying just a simple hello, my name is and I'm your remote moderator today. So introduction and the role. All of a sudden you will need to actually tell the people who you are in the room. The second important thing is information about the workshop. Once inside, you have to let the remote participants actually know which workshop is going to be held. Because for example, for the large international organization or for the large meetings, There can be many rooms, many workshops, titled by numbers or etc. So you might get lost in all those links and you don't know where did you actually end up. So information about the workshop is the first thing you will actually write. And this is the format you will write this intervention. Welcome to the workshop. Number of the workshop, if there is a number of a workshop, and title, adding this workshop title. This format will give you will actually give all data in one sentence. Introduce yourself, information about the workshop. Those are first things. Next on our list of roles and possibilities. As I mentioned earlier, people with disabilities are at the top of our list during the remote participation and moderation of remote participation. As I said, it's extremely important to show that anyone with disability has the required support they need to fully participate. If you're in a crowd, if you're in a room and you see someone or identify someone or with visual or auditory difficulties, you will need to address that. If they have any technical requirements, like they will need a bigger screen or something like that, please liaison with technical assistance on the spot to actually see how this person can make a significant or can make a comment or a question. So again, people with disabilities goes first, and those are the questions, and those are the questions which will be prioritized. After this, you need to keep remote participants informed. This is also really important in order to animate people who will be in the room to actually participate, not just observe the process. So, as I stated here, you can just say the session is scheduled to start in 5 minutes, or the session is scheduled to start in 2 p.m. That means to start in 5 minutes. The point why we're doing this is because often sessions are late. They're not started at the time. They're waiting for a presenter or waiting for someone. So participants might have a notion that maybe the workshop is canceled or there is no one. Because remember, you're the one in a room with the workshop and they're online. They can't fully see what's going on. So again, you're their voice, you're their advocate in the room. Keep them informed. Especially important if the session starts late, someone didn't show up, some of the presenters had problems with his computer, etc., etc. It's important to say that session will start in 5 or in 10, or just inform participants on what's going on. Just as a reminder here, please, if you have any questions, comments, you can interrupt me with voice or you can type in the chat. In a chat session here. So let's take another look at roles and possibilities. And this one is actually about approaching the workshop moderator before the session starts. Why is this important? Of course, if you don't know workshop moderator, for example, it's not Roxana, it's not Barbara, or it's not Ginger, or someone you know. It's really important to actually introduce yourself. Say that you will be there as a remote moderator, and say that you will take the questions on the Q&A round. Many of the online moderators, many of the offline workshop moderators are too busy with preparations of their session, are too busy of announcing who will be there, are too busy of seeing what's actually going on in this another level of meeting, which is online. So your presence needs to be visible. You can approach the workshop moderator, say, hi, I'm Arvin. I will be a remote moderator for this session. Please take notice of me. I will have my remote played, and whenever I have a question, please give me a floor. So this will create a how can I say, a union between a workshop moderator and a remote moderator, and they can, of course, in order to best deliver. The next part, the next point is also really important. It's about informing the remote participants about the remote participation etiquette. What is this remote participation etiquette? It is an actual let's say, wanted behavior of our panel, of our participants. Even if it's an online conference room, it's still a conference room. There are some needs for how can I say, guidelines. And the second important part is to avoid reading irrelevant questions, comments that contain foul language or personal attacks. So what can you say? You would need to give guidance to the audience and others how to behave properly. So you can say, feel free to ask any questions or comments on any topic related to the current session. I will make sure to make forward to the panel as soon as the floor is open for questions. Please note, all questions and comments can be read out due to time constraints, because that would be the case. Remote participants might have 20 questions. We can't have them all. We will not have all questions from the in-situ audience also. So we need to say, let me type a template of what he can say to inform remote participants about the remote participation etiquette. And here it is in your chat. So this is one template on how to actually inform people to behave. So from this side, approaching the workshop moderator before the session starts, introduce yourself, say you're going to take remote participation questions, and if you have identified people with disabilities taking part remotely, please inform the workshop moderator also. Inform the remote participants about the remote participation etiquette. We said what's this about. I gave you an example of what actually you can say in the chat room to get there. Let's go to the next. Particularly important to have properly placed comments. So they can get to the official documents, they can have a background, they can have a name, affiliation, city to be related to, and at the end, those kind of questions are more often read and they offer a background. So tell the remote participants how to send their comments and questions. You need to actually send them a template of how they're going to do it. So they should do this in this format, as stated below: name, affiliation, city, and then a comment. Of course, this will be a bit different for a remote hub, which will be name of remote hub, affiliation, city, and then a comment. In this way, we can organize. You can organize the comments in a sense they will stay in an archive. they can get it into official documents. And we need to know who is asking, what these affiliations are, and what actually, when you see a region or a state, when someone is saying, I'm asking from Brazil or Indonesia, that makes a different regional impact and includes another layer of intervention. On a second note, and related to, as we already spoke, you need to ask the remote participants to be brief. Attention span is short these days. Long questions can't catch the listener attention. Also, the number of participants of fora might be challenged for all to get in line. So, in order to allow as many interventions as possible, please ask remote participants to keep their comments brief, to keep them maximum 2-3 chat lines. Remote, as explained in this slide, remote participants are not presented in the room, and this is difficult to keep the people in the room focused when reading long comments and questions. And this is a serious problem on an event. They will be given a microphone to actually read a question. So that question needs to be short, needs to be concise, needs to be brief in order to be tackled and in order to be understood, to be honest. So this intervention is very nice. Ask the remote participants to be brief. You don't have to do it like Twitter style, 140 characters. The 2-3 chat lines are just great. That's enough, and that's more than 700 characters, which is okay for one question. Again, attention span is short. People can't focus reading long comments and questions. The next one. Well, finally you got the round. Once you got your round in Q&A, and it's your time to speak in the voice of those who are not there. Read the comments. So how do you read the comments? Once you have a remote moderation comment question set or it's there in brief form, you need to raise your nameplate, or remote participation nameplate. Of course, in order to signal workshop moderator, there is a question from the online audience. Again, give priority to people with disabilities to make their comments and ask their questions first. This is some good practice we used to, and we will keep using it. I mean, you can give priority to people with disabilities. Once you start reading this comment, read the comment at the medium pace. I know this is arbitrary. Someone would say quickly, fast, medium. Those are arbitrary terms. But let's rephrase it like this. Just do it in a normal voice. Just don't try to read it too quickly in order to say too much. And of course, another big issue can be on transcribers, as we described at the beginning. Every session is transcribed, so if you read it too fast, of course, it won't. The scribers won't get the words right, and the overall transcript might be wrong. So this is really important to do it at the medium pace. You get your microphone, you get your question, start reading at the medium pace. Remember, there is a panelist who needs to answer that, so they need to understand you. There are transcribing services who actually transcribing every word, so they need to understand you also. Just read comments on medium pace. And so this would be actually ending your role as an advocate for a remote remote participants. But again, on every meeting that might be a remote panelist. people who will actually talk to the panel and be a panelist of a session or a workshop, but actually they are connecting remotely. So in this sense, in the preparation sense, you have nothing to do with it. I mean, all remote panelists will be informed, tested with them, etc. Their presentation will be uploaded. So there is a small portion of your work around the remote panelists. And this is these two things. First is remote panelist presentation. You need to start with it, but that's specific on which you will get an info from IGF how to actually do it. Most probably they will be already loaded, but not much of your engagement. And the second, which is more important, is to keep in close contact with remote panelists. He might be a fourth or third speaker at the workshop. So now first, he will be there from the beginning in let's say, WebEx room, is the same WebEx room. And he needs to know when he's gonna make an intervention. So you need to be in a close contact with the remote panelists. Asking, informing him, of course. You will be up in 10 minutes, or you will be up in 5 minutes, or informing him to prepare for the intervention. So most important part for a remote moderators, for you guys, if there is a remote panelist, is to keep a close contact with him. You won't be setting anything or testing anything with them, but just be there in a chat, participate, contact them, and inform them about their interventions. That is for the remote panelists. Well, there is just one more thing, and this is after the session. Roles and responsibilities after the session is done, after everyone is presented and the session is closed. Well, there are two, or let's say three important things to do. First, it's to keep a record of number of participants of remote hubs and the number of remote participants. You will always need to report to those statistics. You will always need to have an info on how many people were in remote participant room, how many were the individuals, and how many were from hubs. This is a really important thing to know about the outreach. And this statistic is really helps about the outreach. Those numbers are used for the reports and are useful to cross-cut the information from meeting to meeting or from region to region to see if remote participation is going up or down. Well, so you will always be asked to keep record of number of remote hubs, or number of people who were there. So you will need to write it down, saying there was like 7 participants, no need to write their names, of course, etc., or 2 hubs, but there will always be some kind of a follow-up document or place where you can where it will be put this info. The second important part is to report any abnormal activity, to report any ad hominem attack or distributed activity, or someone is sending big pictures, or someone is sending some kind of videos into the chat, or anyhow, any abnormal activity would be needs to report it, of course, this will help the tech team, it will help remote moderation team, it will help workshop team at the spot. So please report if there is anything abnormal happening, you need to report that. And last but not least, and of course really, really important, is to thank the remote participants once the session is ended. It will give them a notion of a sorry for this. It will give them a notion of a you know, close contact with you guys, and it's really important to thank those people who actually took some time to participate remotely. This is also a really important part. And that will be it regarding the roles and responsibilities. What I just read, those roles and responsibilities are basically built on our remote moderation guidelines, which are developed for 2014 Geneva InternetGovernace and 2014 IGF, and which Ginger and I worked on. So this is the document we made. So for this specific IGF, Ginger, our colleague Virginia Ginger Paque, is still a part of a remote participation working group and multi-stakeholder advisory working group for the IGF, and I'm sure she will have more. Marco, what's happening? Are you? We have a question, or you can unmute yourself and speak if you want. Just press on your microphone button next to your name. You can see microphone, and just you can unmute yourself and talk and ask if there is anything. So as I said, this guideline is developed by Diplo and IGF for the 2014 Geneva Internet Conference and 2014 IGF. On this IGF, most of you might actually report from this meeting, so this will be really useful for you. And with some more useful info on how to register for being a remote moderator on IGF 2017, I will now give the floor to Ginger. Ginger, are you there?
Yes, I am. You want to confirm with a thumbs up that you can hear me?
Yes, everything is fine.
Thank you very much, Arvin, for some excellent points, and thanks to all of the interns that are attending this webinar, because this is an extremely important information, and all of the information Arvin gave you is every single point is important. So I'm going to just quickly reiterate a few points that we have in common. At the beginning, Arvin noted that remote participation is about inclusion. You are the advocates and the speakers. You are the bridge to allow remote participants to participate on equal footing with the people in the room. And as he said, it's not about remote observation. If people want to observe, they're watching YouTube. If they're in the WebEx room, it's because they want to participate, and you make it possible. As a matter of fact, in the IGF, online participants register just like in-person participants. So when you go to the list of registered participants for the IGF, you will find the people who have registered for online participation. This makes them equal participants in all of the reports, in all of the participation, and it's important to recognize that we are the ones that make this possible in practice. It's also important to include all the information that Arvin mentioned. He said it already, that the transcript is very important. It makes it searchable, and it makes the interventions by remote participants searchable and findable. If they're not given by name, if it's not noted, when someone does a search or a data analysis of the transcript, they're not going to find them, and then we've lost our equality. In order to do this, he also made some other important points. Arrive early, be familiar not only with the session, but with the setup, and very importantly, talk to the moderator. You are a moderator on the session just as much as the in-person moderator. It's a full role, it's not a tech role. The tech part's easy. The moderation part is far more difficult, and that's why Arvin's points are so important. You have to know about the panel. If you're the panel moderator, and you are a panel moderator, you have to know what's going to go on in the panel. So you need to know who the speakers are, the order, what's happening, because when people ask you in the chat room, you're going to need to give them the information. You're their bridge, you're their link. Again, as Arvin pointed out, this is not a tech role. It's an advocacy role, it's a representation, it's a moderation role. The tech part will be taken care of. You have to go in, you have to make sure you know how to use it, but you all use your computers. It's the moderation part that's important. New things for the IGF, if you're going to moderate, and I suggest that you do, we need all the help we can get. If you're in Geneva, your role is extremely important. You represent Diplo and you represent the online participant. This year, it's going to be a bit more difficult because we have added layers. These are very good layers. The IGF is now implementing for the first time, and it's actually the first time I know of anywhere, that there will be an electronic speaking queue, which is normal in UN proceedings, that people press a button and they get on the electronic queue. You're not raising cards anymore saying, I want to speak. That's almost impossible for a moderator to see. An electronic speaking queue allows everyone to get in line equally, and the moderator sees the electronic speaking queue. This year at the IGF, online participants will be in that same electronic queue. The links are not up, the information and instructions are not up, but I need to stress the importance of being familiar with this system, because you will need to be able to guide the online participants through that process. It'll be quite easy. There will be a link that you can repeat for them in the chat room, so they don't need to go looking for it on the website. They need to be registered, and obviously they are because they're in the WebEx chat room. They'll click on the link and add their name, and that will give them equal footing for interventions. Now, what's the difference here? Those are for interventions that will be made using audio. You are still probably going to be the link for people who want to make a short comment, as Arvin pointed out, by text, which you will read out. And unfortunately, this is not discrimination. They need to be short because of our attention span. However, we cannot, the role of a moderator is not to filter. While the moderator in the room will interrupt any speaker who makes an ad hominem attack, who is vulgar, who is using inappropriate language or manners. That is the same in text, and the guidelines that Arvin has specified are important. However, the moderator in the room doesn't know what the speaker is going to say and does not filter their comments. It is not uncommon for an online moderator to shorten, to kind of filter, to soften a strong stance, and that's not fair. Your role is not to act as a filter. You read the comments as they are specified. If you are suggesting a change, you should do that in the chat room in private message before you read it. But, and I'm stressing this because I have done it myself. I have caught myself doing it. When there's a participant who expresses themselves a little aggressively for my style, I have actually filtered, and that is not fair. I should not have done it, and you should not do it. The moderator in the room doesn't do it. They don't know what people are going to say, and you have to kind of take the stance that you don't know either. This speaker is going to speak. They speak. They take responsibility for their words. They're not your words. And so there is a fine balance there between informing guidelines, because it's a chat room, people might tend to be a little too informal. So check with them before you say it. Is this exactly how you want me to read it, or would you like to? And you could even suggest It's really not our role. We are not filters. We are not censors. We do encourage and require appropriate behavior, but that's difficult to manage. However, it's extremely important. And on that line, it's also very important to differentiate between talk between chat participants, because this is their way of talking to the person next to them. People talk in the audience, they say, what was that? They chat. It's a way of breaking the isolation. Make sure you understand clearly whether they want the comment read into the room or they're just talking to the other people in the chat room. Simple questions, please, you can say, please clearly state if you want this comment read into the room or not. This will be clearer also later when the IGF sessions instructional sessions take place, and we explain also the difference between a chat and text intervention and an online queue intervention. Another point that Arvin alluded to but didn't clarify completely is that we do have to be careful that because 2 or 3 people are making text interventions and you're going to read them, you can't lump them together. Every intervention is important the same way every intervention in the room is important. A more difficult point sometimes, because you're dealing with the panel moderator's management of time, is to make sure that online interventions are made in a timely manner. If someone made a very excellent intervention, but it's read 10 minutes too late, it just doesn't have any impact. So again, the point that Arvin made about having a good setup for communication with the panel moderator before the panel starts, so you can make sure they know that you have someone in the room. The moderator looks at the room and they see someone who's just anxious to talk right now. And they call on them. They say, oh, look, we've got something important going on over here. They can't tell that about someone in the room, in the WebEx room. Other points that are specific to the IGF, because the setup is changing, will need to be addressed either later in another webinar with Arvin, or, and I strongly suggest that you attend the remote moderation training sessions with Luis Bobo through the IGF. Those are my main points. Arvin, did I miss anything, or does anyone else have a question?
Thank you, Ginger. No, you didn't miss anything. The last piece of information is really important. Basically, the IGF will run the trainings for the Internet Governance Forum, which will be held, I guess, close to the meeting, which starts from 18th December. So they will run a test webinars, orientation session webinars, and as Ginger mentioned, please, if you're a remote moderator for the IGF, join those also, because they will showcase the specific pages on which you will collect workshop data or anything would you need for preparation. They will actually explain the specific links and specific places on the internet where you can go find whatever is related to the IGF. So those what we are talking today was the general principles of every remote participation, but this for specific IGF, please do attend some of the trainings, and we will of course repeat this training as Ginger mentioned in her intervention. So
Arvin, can I make...
Go ahead, please, Ginger.
Sorry, if any of you are willing and want to serve as remote moderators on a session, please email me separately, because it would be good to get you in touch with the panel moderators and to offer your services now. That way you'll be able to form part of the preparation for the session and work out the strategy. This is important to the moderators, but when you're trying to organize it 5 minutes before the session at the IGF, it gets a little hectic. So let me know if we can offer your services to important panels that are still looking for moderators. Thanks, Arvin.
Thank you, Ginger. If you just wanted to maybe point out that the IGF will actually host the hubs. What are the hubs? Hubs are groups of individuals which are gathered and in order to attend or to watch a session or ask questions during some sessions. So remote hubs are also encouraged for this IGF, and some of you might actually form some remote hubs somewhere, from your society or someone.
Hubs are also, each hub is being contacted and working with the IGF Secretariat Tech team to prepare their interventions ahead of time, especially in sessions they're more interested in. So that won't be as hard from the moderation viewpoint because the tech team will help them prepare ahead of time, and it'll be a controlled intervention. But as Arvin noted before, if they make ad hoc interventions during a session, we should emphasize and identify those. Arvin, I'm not hearing you.
Sorry, I was muted. Thank you, Ginger. And we are now on a 50 minutes mark, as we said this webinar will last. So please, if you have any questions, comments, ask, do it in a chat. If not, the recording of this webinar will be sent to you, of course, and this presentation, which contains roles and responsibilities from our guideline, will also be sent to you. So as a reminder what we talked about. So any question? Anyone? Well, okay. Ginger, if you have something to add, if not, we will just close this meeting. Okay, no interventions from Ginger. Again, thank you all for being here. Don't forget. When you're a remote moderator, you're a voice of people who are not in the room. So this is a really great role for you to try. And see you all for the next webinar. Bye.